Good evening and salutations, my GH fans. You know, every now and then, before I start my review, sometimes I like to sit there and watch a little bit of Brock TVs, just to kind of sit there and get his take on it and everything like that, what's going on, like what his take on the episode, and stuff like today, when he was like, I enjoyed this episode, this was a good episode. Sometimes I'm just like, did we watch the same episode? I don't know. I think maybe he kind of got a little bit more out of it than I did. This episode wasn't bad. I didn't particularly care for the whole Nina and Sonny stuff, but I haven't really cared about that stuff for a long time. Don't get me wrong. When I sit there and say I don't care, that doesn't mean that stuff sometimes isn't interesting. But for the most part, this episode was okay. I think what this episode did today was more of a build-up, because stuff is going down. Let's see. You know what? Let's start with Britt and Terry for a minute. Monica's great plan, and I can't make this up. She's like, you can both be practically co-captains. You can both be chief of staffs. And I'm just like, what? Why would you do that for her? Like, that literally makes no sense. Why the hell do you think that Britt would want to be co of anything with anyone? I can see maybe Terry, but not her. And by the way, Terry was acting a little, extra catty today. I was like, what was that about? Yeah, we all know that Britt was working, Britt, as far as Britt, and Cyrus and stuff like that. We all know what her initial part in it was. But the thing is, when she found out what was going on, she did try to do everything she could to stop it. You can attest to that. So I understand, Terry with the whole, she was working really close with Cyrus, she turned a blind eye, this, that, and the third. I'm like, Terry, seriously? What are you, 5 years old? But, yeah, she's like, I want both of y'all to be co-captains. I'm like, well, this is pretty stupid. And with that being said, Britt just kind of walked out. She walked out. She was like, yeah, I'm not dealing with this. And Monica was like, well, I pitched this whole co-captain thing. So if it doesn't work, then I just have to move on to the next candidate. I'm like, why would you pitch? Why would you pitch that for? That literally made no sense. Oh, I'm just going to go over to the next candidate. So if you figured if co-captains didn't work and you're just going to pick another solo person, why didn't you do that in the beginning? I'm going to sit there and just have to believe that there's a reason why she decided to go co-chief of staff in the first place. Because that, I'm going to be honest, that's just straight up dumb. That's stupid. So yeah, Britt walks out, and she walks into Jason, and, Jason's about to sit there and use the elevator, and she's like, they exchange words for a little bit, and Jason's like, alright, listen, I gotta go. And she's like, I want 1997 back. For what? What? I'm like, what is she talking about? And she's like, oh, well, I got a toothbrush, I got an extra toothbrush for you, but, since I thought you were going to be staying over, now you're not staying over, and, you know what, you can just give me the $5. Where did this petty what? I'm like, yo, let me get this straight. You hitting this man out for money over a toothbrush. Britt, are you 5 years old? I had to rewind that twice because I was like, yo, I know this chick did really not just ask to get money back from Jason. Jason's like, alright, here's a 20. I'm surprised he didn't pull out 100, but he's like, yo, here's a 20. Venmo me. And she walks off, and Jason's just like, he had that look on his face like, am I daydreaming or did that really just happen? Now, Jason was sitting there talking to Liz, and at first Liz is like, oh, I don't want to talk about it. I have a lot going on with the boys, you know. You got Cam going to school, you got Aiden doing this, you got Jake doing that. Lady, just tell him the damn truth. I love it. She's like, I can't get into this right now. I'm so busy with other stuff. Oh, you mean to cover up a murder? You mean a murder that you didn't really cover up yet? You're too busy? Okay. So finally she actually says, you know, what's going on. And she's all like, oh, well, I didn't want to sit there and say anything, and I didn't want Finn to turn himself in because yada yada yada, and blah 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 blah. You're an idiot, but keep going. So finally Jason's like, listen, I'll take care of it. Now you got Anna and Finn talking. And at first Anna does this double speak, this double talk or whatever. And I'm just like, so you guys are going to confront him with the truth? Because at one point, Finn is about to sit there and say something like, alright, yeah, listen, it was me, you know, I did it. But she's like, no, don't say anything. Okay. I'm sitting there thinking, okay, maybe she doesn't want to, you know, she's giving him like a head start or whatever, you know. Head start, like she's sitting there saying about this body and yada yada yada. And this, you know, whoever this person is, you know. At first I thought she was giving him a head start, to be honest. But then she's like, well, I hope this person can sit there and come to me and tell me. I was like, he was going to do that like 5 minutes ago. What are you talking about? And then finally she's like, so was you up there on that roof? Was you responsible for Peter or whatever? I'm like, so did you just enjoy monologuing throughout this whole scene? Because I'm pretty sure my guy was going to sit there and tell you that, yeah, he killed him by accident. But at one point, you know, Liz was like, oh, I need a consultation or whatever. And Ben was pretty much like, yeah, there's another doctor in the office. Go down. This ain't a good time. So she closes the door. And at this point, Liz gets worried. So I'm assuming who she called was Scott, because you see him in the next episode. Now, I'm not going to lie, I did find this part highly entertaining. Highly entertaining. Because there's so many different ways. One second. There's so many different ways you could have solved this whole Peter problem. You could have did this a long time ago. Nah, you decide to go to baseball games and hang out and do all this other stuff and just kind of just talk in the hospital about Peter's dead body. Finn, you wasn't sitting there helping with any of the suggestions that Liz brought forward, and well, you listen to Liz about hiding what you did. And how even when Jason was sitting there talking to Liz, you know, Jason was like, well, the fact that you hit this body and you didn't really say anything won't work in your favor. I just found this highly entertaining. Now, at this point, Liz is freaking out. She's sitting there calling. She's looking around like she's all distracted. She's talking to Terry, which keeps calling her Biz because apparently that's just a joke that I haven't found funny since the first time she said it, but whatever. Right, she's freaking out, and now you see in the preview she gets talking to Sky, and she's like, "Oh, well, what would involuntary manslaughter get me?" Or you know, just asking all sort of these legal questions. I was like, you know, Liz. Now, I could be wrong, but it almost seems like you're nervous about getting caught by the cops. You know, for hiding a dead body. Oh, this is so dumb. I had to laugh at that. That was wow. Okay, let's move on because I can't think anymore about that part. Sam was sitting there talking to Sean, talking about Alexis, and Sean's like, well, at least she's in a better facility and stuff like that. And, Sam is like, well, she's still in jail. I'm like, she's in a goddamn country club. What are you talking about jail? I mean, yeah, it's still jail, but it's like, she's acting like, like it's somewhat jail. It's like soft jail, if you could sit there and call it a jail. But, they're hanging out at the pool, and they're looking to talk to Jax to try to find the whereabouts of Hayden Barnes. Did all this planning, talking to him, and in the end, he didn't know anything. He didn't know where she was. So it was like, alright, so we did this whole episode to try to focus on Jax, so this way we can get to Hayden, and Jax was dead end. Oh, that was 40 minutes down the drain. Only thing that really happened was they talked about Sean and how Sean didn't do it, and of course Jax was like, well, you spent a long time not turning Sonny in, while he's out there living his best life, and you're just kind of just sitting in jail rotting and stuff like that. And of course Sean was like, he said that he did have penance or whatever he felt like he needed to atone to, but at the same time I'm like, listen, Sonny's my guy, but I'm like, bro, I know the whole, snitches get stitches, but you can take care of yourself, and be honest, I'm pretty sure you can hold your own against Jason. I'm not sitting there spending time in jail while this man is out there living his best life just because. I'm just, no. I still remember the episode when he was introduced. This was during the whole Balkan thing, and there was one scene where Sean is sitting there looking at Jason, just like sizing him up and everything like that. And I'm just like, wow. I go back that far. Just in case anyone is wondering how far I go back. I'll actually tell you if I even go further than that, but that's not the point. What else we got? Oh, yeah. So, Alexa sees Ryan. She gets on his face, starts poking her finger in his face and whatever, and talking to him. And now I know when Nicholas comes up and, he turns him like the other way or whatever. They talk about Ava, Stalker, Ryan, stuff like that. And Alexa's like, listen, I can sit there and I can keep an eye on Ryan and stuff like that. I'm like, you got this nice cushy new jail thing going on, and you want to sit there and rock the boat by, I don't know, trying to spy on Ryan? Like, what are you doing? Even Nicholas is like, yo, you're good here. Let's just kind of leave it alone and chill. And of course, Alexa's like, well, what is he going to do? He's incapacitated. He's no threat. He's not doing anything. And then you see in Ryan's face, he starts smiling. So I'm like, alright. How long is it going to be before he decides to start killing again? And will Alexis be the next target? I doubt that they're going to kill off Alexis because she's been on this show for a long time. I mean, she may get hurt, might get stabbed, maybe, or kidnapped or whatever, but I don't know. Unless Nancy decides that she doesn't want to do it anymore, which, to be honest, I thought that's what she was going to do the first time. Like, just leave the show, but she's still there, so, Oh yeah, the whole Nixon's 4 storyline. So they're pretty much just kind of catching up with each other, Nina and Sonny. There's one part where Sonny's like, I had to fight in my, I had to really hold myself back from going to Port Charles and, coming to come and get you. And the look on Nina's face was just priceless. Her eyes just bulged up and whatever, like... It was hilarious. It really was. Just seeing the fear on her face was satisfying. Of course, I'm not going to be really satisfied until I have that cake when Nina goes down. But, and yet, no, I did not forget about that. That is still going to be a thing. But yeah, they just catch up pretty much, and then they kiss, and that was pretty much about it. I love how she's doing this whole, and there's one part where Sonny's like, oh, well, You know, I hope I never sit there and remember who I am, you know, because of the whole gun thing and stuff, and I hope I don't remember who I am, and I'm just sitting there thinking, you know, listen, I get it. You may have some skeletons in your closet and stuff like that, and you may not want to remember who you are, but it's almost as though he forgot that he had a wedding band on his finger. I guess he doesn't want to sit there and try to remember that, remember any sort of potential kids he may have, or grandkids he may have. It's just, him saying that one line is just like, are you kidding me right now? Really? So yeah, that happened. Now before I continue, and I feel like I'm probably done, but before I continue, this came 12 hours ago. 2 people actually hit me up, and I think more people actually was there talking about this. So, and I gotta watch that review, because somebody was there saying that there's a review. So pretty much, and this is during the time that I wasn't watching the show. Apparently, Sam, Sean, Jason, I think, or well, Sam and Sean know that Alexis was behind. Know that Nicholas was behind the whole, you know, shooting of Hayden Barnes. But for some odd reason, they decided to reboot the storyline. Now, for me, I don't have a, well, for me, somebody who didn't know, it's like, okay, whatever. But if I was actually watching it during that time, I would think it's an insult. I would seriously sit there and think it's an insult. Because I'm like, okay, so you're just going to sit there and pretend that everyone on the planet just had amnesia? I think you're Anna Gospel to Music, I think. Yeah, and you're another person that told me about the whole Sam and Sean, or some other people know, you know, what's really going on as far as the shooting with Hayden Barnes. But for some odd reason, the writers are just deciding to reboot the whole thing. Now, I hope that that's the case, which is still stupid, but it's better than the writers actually forgetting that they already knew about, you know, them actually knowing that Nicholas was responsible or had, you know, some sort of hand in Hayden Barnes' shooting. Anyway, Jackson sit there and say to go to Nicholas to try to get, you know, whereabouts on the whole shooting thing. I mean, as far as, you know, who shot, you know, Hayden Barnes. And I'm sitting there thinking, why would they go to Hayden Barnes for? I mean, if Hayden knew who shot her, why wouldn't she say anything? Now, they were sitting there saying something along the lines of, you know, maybe she's been gone so long to protect her child, because to be honest, this whole her leaving this long is just stupid. It literally makes no sense. So I don't really understand, like, even if they do find Hayden, what's that gonna do? What if she doesn't know anything? Then what? I don't know. Either way, this whole thing, like, if they rebooted it or whatever, there's a lot of people saying they rebooted it. If they did, this is just stupid. This is just dumb. Anyway, with that being said, I feel like that's about it. I know I must have missed maybe 1 or 2 things. If I did, please write in the comment section below. With that being said, I'm going to go. Thank you for watching. Be safe. I will see you in the next video.